Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 2 of our podcast. My name is Toby,
And I'm Seth.
and we are the Swinny Bros.
We welcome you to the Swinny Bros podcast.
So, in today's episode, we are in a brand new recording environment. Hopefully, you guys like the look of things. I think we got it pretty nice and spiffy in here. Today, we're going to be going over our most anticipated Week 1 matchups of the NFL regular season. And then we're going to be discussing our predictions of every matchup for every team. So to start us out, Seth's going to go ahead and go over his most anticipated Week 1 matchups and why he thinks those are good matchups. And I'll offer some potential critiques or things of myself.
Okay, now prior to this broadcast, I have no previous knowledge of what Toby has selected. I know nothing about what he's picked. I'm hearing it for the first time too, just like he's hearing my picks for the first time as well. So I'm going to have to start off with the NFC North. There's so much talent in this division right now, and in my opinion, two of the biggest matchups for Week 1 in my book would have to be, number one, the Detroit Lions versus the Green Bay Packers, and then secondly, the Minnesota Vikings versus the Chicago Bears. It's going to be interesting to see, for me, who draws first blood in the NFC North for Week 1. Excluding Chicago, last season, it was a very competitive and close season in the NFC North. The Lions won the division, of course, with a solid 15-2 record, and went all the way to the divisional round of the playoffs. However, Dan Campbell was no match for Dan Quinn and his Commanders, losing 45-31 to the Washington Commanders. The Lions are definitely a force to be reckoned with, and I expect nothing less than another strong season for them this year. Bear with me, I'm leading up to something, I promise. Okay, when you take a look at the Vikings had a second place standing in the NFC North with a 14-3 record. So, I mean, they were just barely behind the Lions there. They also went on to play for a wild card spot, but unfortunately, Kevin O'Connell just couldn't cut the mustard and was no match for Sean McVay. Sean McVay's Rams gave the Vikings an ugly loss at 27-9. That was terrible, 27-9. But, you can't snooze on Kevin O'Connell. Since becoming the Vikings head coach in 2022, Kevin O'Connell has made 2 playoff appearances in just 3 short seasons. I think the biggest question right now that remains to be answered for the Vikings this season is J.J. McCarthy. With the torn meniscus injury last season in Minnesota's preseason opener against Las Vegas, J.J. McCarthy had to sit the entire season out. So there's a lot of talent on this team. And I think that if J.J. McCarthy can find his rhythm and chemistry, that the Vikings will definitely give the Lions a run for their money this season. Now we're going to look at the Green Bay Packers for a second. The Green Bay Packers were second to last in the NFC North with an 11-6 record. Not terrible, but not quite up there with the Vikings and the Lions. The crazy thing, though, to keep in mind about Green Bay is that they have made a playoff appearance in 5 of their last 6 seasons. In 2020, Green Bay went on to the NFC Championship and lost to San Francisco, 37-20. Pretty runaway game. Then they turned right around and go back to the NFC Championship again in 2021 and lose to Tampa Bay, 31-26. In 2022, they played San Francisco in the divisional round, which was a very close game that resulted in a loss of 13-10. So it wasn't a runaway. It was a very close game. Then 2023 comes, no playoff appearance for Green Bay for their 2020 season. They kind of fizzled out that year. But, however, they did bounce back the following season to make it to the divisional round in 2024, only to be defeated yet again by Kyle Shanahan, 24-21, who went on to play the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. And then lastly, they went again, but they were obliterated last season by the Super Bowl champs, 22-10. Matt LaFleur has shown that he can do it. Will he follow suit this season? Time will tell. And then my last topic before I get into these games is the Chicago Bears. They had a 5-12 record last year in the NFC North. Nothing to brag about, nothing to write home again. They didn't even They didn't even break even. But there is light at the end of the tunnel, possibly, for Bears fans everywhere. The beginning of this year, the Bears hired Ben Johnson. I think the question that everyone is asking right now is if Ben Johnson is going to be the man that can turn this team around. He certainly has an impressive resume, especially considering that he has spent the last 6 seasons with the Detroit Lions. I'm very curious to see how the Bears begin their season under new head coach Ben Johnson. So just for those 2 games right there, you know, I don't want to give away my picks, but you got the Lions and the Packers playing each other. So you got the first seed team of that conference and the third seed team of that conference playing each other. And then you've got the Vikings playing the Bears. So those are the 2 biggest ones on my list for week 1.
All right, well, I'm really glad he gave the context that we didn't consult each other beforehand because I have 2 completely different games. No, I mean that's definitely, I considered at least putting the Lions and the Packers on. That was my third pick, but we decided to just do 2 games. So going into that, my first game of my most anticipated matchup is the Cowboys and the Eagles, and this is a rivalry that's historic, and we always come to so many conclusions about the Cowboys season and the Eagles season really based off when they meet each other. And so my biggest question for the Cowboys is Dak Prescott finally going to be the key? Is he going to be the elite quarterback, not just in the regular season? Is he finally going to step up and take the Cowboys to a place that they just haven't even been to since I've been born? Hello, Cowboys, please do anything. You're America's team, and you just look terrible. This is not Steve Rogers. This is some hand-me-down that just, I don't know. If I'm Dak Prescott, what are you doing? You're the face of America's team, and you can't do anything but sit on the bench and be a regular season menace? That's it? I need something from you. You're supposed to be the, when Europeans look at us, they're supposed to be like, wow, the Cowboys, they're good, and you guys suck. You guys keep sucking, and so maybe with a new head coach, Dak Prescott can finally get his head out of his butt, but until he does, I'm not convinced. And so I want to see in this elite matchup against the defending Super Bowl champions if Dak Prescott can finally do something to add to his legacy other than being a regular season merchant. Now, to follow up on that, is this game, are we going to see enough from this game to determine if the Cowboys are really contenders, especially if we don't even see Micah Parsons getting signed and getting his contract that he wants? The dude's laying out on a stretcher on the sideline while his team's playing a preseason game. If that doesn't ring alarm bells for you about the organization as a whole, what else is going to? I mean, you're talking one of your best players, and your owner is over here sitting here like, oh, yeah, we can have this little petty high school fight. No one cares about your drama. We want to win football games. And if you're a Cowboys fan, this should scare you. This should make you wonder about the future of your franchise. Until Jerry Jones is not being Jerry Jones, is your team ever going to do anything more than just have a good regular season? This is scary stuff, and it's time. People are fed up. The Cowboys are fed up. If you're fans of the Cowboys, you're just fed up. You got to have something. So if they come out and they get blown out by the Eagles in this game, I'm just going on a limb and saying they have no chance this year. But on top of that, are the Eagles going to be contenders again this year? There hasn't been too much shuffling around to make us think that they're falling off. I mean, they've still got a solid coach. They've still got an incredible quarterback. They've still got incredible offense. I mean, they didn't really lose a whole lot of good players, which when you win the Super Bowl, typically you do. Typical teammates will go to other teams. They'll go sign big contract extensions elsewhere. It's rare unless you're the Chiefs. And so the Eagles are trying to stay in that reign of Titan supremacy, but are they capable of doing it? And is this game going to give us a good insight as to the level of their team caliber?
Well, before you move on to your next game, I don't think that you can sum up the Cowboys by their week 1 game against the Super Bowl champs. That's kind of not fair based on the Eagles have arguably one of the best defenses in the NFL right now. So to hinge the Dallas Cowboys whole season on week 1's a little harsh.
I mean, I could be a hater, but, the Dallas Cowboys want to be a Super Bowl team. And what better way to determine your level of play than against the defending Super Bowl champs?
Agreed, but that is one of the biggest defenses in the NFL right now. So, you got to give them a little grace just there.
Okay. Well, my last point on this game before moving on to my next game of the week is A.J. Brown going to be a boom or bust player this season. He has been extremely consistent for the most part, and he has really solidified himself as a shining star in Philadelphia. But there's been some talks around the league and behind the scenes that wondering if, is he going to stay this consistent with this talent incoming? Is he going to still be Jalen Hurts' go-to man? Is he still going to produce efficiently like he has been? Or is he going to start finally winding down? I mean, he's progressively went up and up and up on fantasy pickings, on rankings. And is he really going to maintain that status and solidify himself in what I would consider a legendary status? Or is he going to be a boom or bust player like DeAndre Hopkins after a while?
Very valid point. Very valid argument.
But moving on to a complete flip side of conferences, I've got the Bills and the Ravens as my second game to look forward to. Like I said, I almost picked the Lions and the Packers for my second game, so I'm kind of glad I didn't since that did. But my three pressing questions for each team, we're going to start out with the Bills, is do they have enough talent at the wide receiver position? This was a huge question that we've been asking about the Chiefs, and it looks like they've been making some good moves. And over on the Bills side, you've got Khalil Shakir, who had what I think was a pretty good season in terms of targets and really going out. They had the signing of Josh Palmer, and he's been one of my favorite receivers. He was at Tennessee. I loved watching him. I think he's great. Do I think he's on the status of an elite receiver? No, but I think he's a good addition. You've got Elijah Moore. You've got Keon Coleman. You've got Curtis Samuel. Is there enough depth here that makes me think that Josh Allen is actually having enough talent around him to win? I don't know. It's a big question mark for me.
It is. I mean, the Bills' running wide receiver core is not what it once was. I like Khalil Shakir. He's jammed up. I can't really say a lot about Josh Palmer yet. It's a little early in the game for him. I like the way that Keon Coleman played last year. Yeah. Keon Coleman really stepped up as a Bills wide receiver last year. I think he has the potential to break out this season and be that number 2 guy for them, though.
I hope so, because I really would like to see. I'd like to see Josh Allen have weapons, not just a weapon. I'd like to see him be able to spread the ball around and have a lot of talent around him. And to my second point, the $1 million man that we referenced last week, is James Cook's season going to be pretty apparent from this game? Are we going to get more of a boom bust factor like I was mentioning with A.J. Brown? Is he going to get the bag and he's going to come out slow and he's going to look like you can just kind of tell he got his paycheck, so it's whatever? Or is he really going to come out hungry to win and hungry to get this team going? Because if James Cook has a good season for this Bills team and is able to relieve some of the offensive pressure that gets put on Josh Allen, they're deadly. They're scary. They're deadly.
But not only that, also if James Cook can be that ball carrier for Josh Allen, that also opens up the door for play action passes and things like that.
Laptop totally just died. I guess they didn't like me talking about the Bills, but we're back. And my third point to mention Josh Allen is Josh Allen capable of carrying his team like Mahomes? And the key word for me is if he has to. Because if he has enough talent around him, if James Cook is doing enough in the run game, if they have enough receiver depth, if Dalton Kincaid steps up big for the Bills, he's not going to have to. But we've seen that X factor like Mahomes, when he's put in those situations where he doesn't have the talent he needs, he's still able to go through. And the biggest question that surrounds Bills Mafia in general is, can they get over the hump of the Kansas City Chiefs? And is that going to happen this year? I think he's more than capable of it, but I haven't seen... It's so unfortunate. It feels almost like a tragic movie at this point, watching the Bills play the Kansas City Chiefs, just because Josh Allen performs so well. But so does Mahomes, and it seems like Mahomes always has the edge. Are we going to see anything different this season? On the flip side of things, the Ravens. Oh, man. I don't like the Ravens, but I do like a lot of their players. So maybe I'm contradicting myself there. The Ravens have incredible talent on offense, but is their defense even stronger this time around? They've got Kyle Hamilton, Marlon Humphrey, Jared Alexander, Kyle Van Noy, just a few names of a star-studded defense that looks really, really good. Several potential Defensive Player of the Year award possibilities on this team, And their defense last season, I thought, was very good, but I think it's going to be even better this season. And I think matching that up against the Eagles is going to be a sight to see. And I've always considered the Ravens for a while now to have a much better offense, but now it seems like they finally are putting in the pieces to have both. And to go against the Bills in your open season matchup, that's going to be a sight to see. That's really going to give me a good indication, I think, of where the Ravens stand, because they have a lot of talent on both sides of it. And following through, again, the Ravens, I feel like, have a very similar position of the Bills, and who's going to be the standout receiver for Baltimore. Everyone I know is just going to say Zay Flowers is going to be number one. I think Zay Flowers has the chance to be number one. I think he's going to be the most targeted receiver, but you've also got Bateman, you've got Hopkins. I know he's old, and I know it's up and down, but there's a lot of chance for talent to break out. And sometimes when you have that clear number one receiver, that gives your other people in the shadows a chance to really break out and show what they're capable of and get that connection with Lamar Jackson. Because we know Lamar Jackson is a good quarterback, but we also know Lamar Jackson struggles in the playoffs a lot similarly to Dak Prescott. And does he have enough talent there finally that he's not going to just need Zay Flowers? He's going to have deadly weapons, because you're going to need that against teams like the Bills, the Chiefs, against the Eagles. You've got to have a solid wide receiver core. And are they going to be standouts, or are they just going to be average? I think Zay Flowers is very good, but I don't know if he's developed enough to be considered an elite level receiver yet.
Well, Hopkins is obviously the veteran out of the three, but he's been on the downhill slide the last little bit. This could be his bounce back year. Like you said, it could be Flowers. Flowers could be that guy. They also got Mark Andrews. He could come back and have a dynamite year this year. And also somebody that people kind of forgot about in the Ravens offense. I don't think that you'll really see him play a big role this year. I think he's still hurt. But next year for sure, I think you're going to see Isaiah Likely really come out of the woodwork for that Ravens offense next year.
Solid point. I didn't even put him in my notes. So that shows the in-depth we're talking about here. And last but not least, before we move on to our next topic of predictions, is this the year the Ravens get over the hump in the playoffs? And I really said the Ravens, but I specifically do mean Lamar Jackson. The Ravens have become even better regular season merchants than the Cowboys, and they show more promise in the playoffs, but they're still what we consider to be an elite caliber team, falling short of a status that I think they should be at. And they've been building such consistency around Lamar Jackson, building good defense, building good offense, getting more and more weapons. It kind of feels almost like a James Harden of the NBA. We're giving you talent. Can you not go win a ring now? And so at this point, if you're Baltimore, your championship window, you got to start wondering, when is it going to start dwindling? Because it's like, we keep getting all this talent and we keep building and we keep building. When is these first round, second round exits going to be enough? When are we going to get over the hump? Personally, I hope they never do, because I don't like the Ravens. But you would expect from that perspective that it's finally time for them to start doing something and not just being in the shadows of the Titans of our league current. So those are my points for my games of the week. Any comments you want to add to that before the next? All right. So for our next segment, what we'll do is we'll list 2 games at a time. So Seth will list his 2 game predictions and give a little insight as to why he picks those. And then I'll list my 2, and we'll just go in that order until we go through every week 1 matchup. We are going in order of just how we typed it down and how we saw it listed. So Seth?
Okay, rolling out first for the opener of Thursday Night Football is the Dallas Cowboys and the Philadelphia Eagles. The biggest problem, I think, with this game is the Eagles are the Super Bowl champs for one, so I've always got them as the clear winner. The Cowboys do not have a run game. It is very much lacking. It has been very much lacking for a long time. They had a decent run game, Ezekiel Elliott's first couple seasons, but they don't really have much of a run game, especially since they don't have Tony Pollard anymore. Their run game is gone. Something they're really going to have to work on, in my opinion, this season. They have a pretty good wide receiver group, in my opinion, right? CeeDee Lamb and the addition of George Pickens, and with Ferguson at tight end, I think they've got some pretty good air. attacks going on, but I think the biggest thing that's going to hold the Cowboys back this first game, week 1, is the Eagles' defense. They got second in the league last year for fewest points allowed per game, just coming in at 17.8 points allowed per game. So that's, you're going up against the four horsemen here. And then the second game is a Friday game, which is something a little unusual, but this is in Sao Paulo, Brazil, with the Chiefs and the Chargers. I'm taking the Chiefs on this one. The Chargers do have a very solid defense, and they got some pretty heavy hitters, including Khalil Mack and Derwin James. But I don't think it's enough to stop the Chiefs' offense. The Chiefs beat the Chargers on both their regular season matchups last season, and I feel like it's not going to be any different for this game. This is just going to be another day at the office for Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs.
That's really good analysis. Mine are exactly the same. I've got the Eagles over the Cowboys. I think it'll be close for the first 2 quarters, and then I think the Eagles are going to be the Eagles. They're the reigning champs. They have standout defense, and their offense is just as good. Jalen Hurts is fantastic. I don't think this is up for argument. The Cowboys have potential, but they're not there yet. They are nowhere near there yet. And if the Cowboys manage to pull this off, then I'll say it. Cowboys are going to the Super Bowl because I just don't see it happening. And then for the Chiefs and the Chargers, I actually thought a lot about this one, and I really considered that sometimes the Chiefs have a bad habit of starting out slow, and maybe just when you're that good, you get comfortable. And but no, I mean the Chiefs have had the Chargers number. They've been dominant. To paraphrase what Seth said, it's just going to be another day in the office. I think it will be close, and I think the Chargers really do have a good matchup, a better matchup this year than last year, and I think they've got the talent around them to really put up a good fight in that matchup. But I do think the Chiefs are still better. I think the Chiefs take it, and I think it's going to be a 1-touchdown game, but I do think the Chiefs win. No score prediction. Not going there. Not going there. Oh, yeah, okay. So for the next one, this one I almost switched, but I'm gonna pick the Dolphins to knock off the Colts. And I really was considering this, and I think I was doing a roster comparison between these two teams, and both the quarterbacks are really a big question mark. But I think the Dolphins have enough. They're tired of being terrible when they don't need to be terrible. And that can really just motivate you to put the extra effort in and to really just have a vicious game. And with the Colts naming Daniel Jones as a starting quarterback, I've never thought Daniel Jones was how can I say this? He's a backup quarterback, in my opinion. I don't think he's good. I never have thought Daniel Jones is good. I thought he got paid way too much money and it went all to his head. And maybe now at the new team and a new environment, he completely makes me eat my words. But I've got no hope in that Colts team. I really don't. I've got to say the Dolphins knock them off in the first game. Moving on to someone actually commented on our post. We were asking who the potential matchups were and what you were looking forward to the most. And they said the Steelers and the Jets. There's a lot of bad blood here for obvious reasons. And maybe the room isn't dark enough. I don't know. My bad. Don't mean to invoke Aaron Rodgers' presence here or anything, but I'm going to have to go with the Steelers over the Jets. I think the Steelers, you've still got Mike Tomlin as the head coach, and I think Aaron Rodgers will play better for him. I don't really know how he's going to play. That's a big question mark, but I do think the Steelers have the edge over the Jets here. The Jets still have talent on their team, but it just doesn't seem like that talent is capable of really doing much, and they haven't been impressive the last several years. So I'm going to say the Steelers take it over the Jets. It'll be close, I think, but I do think the Steelers pull out and win.
Okay, Dolphins, Colts. I went the other way. I chose Indianapolis over Miami. I think that Jonathan Taylor is going to come out pounding, just tearing it up. I really have a lot of expectations for Tyler Warren. I think he's going to come out strong. Otherwise, I don't really think that the Colts would have took him as early as they did in the draft if they did not have the same expectations. Is Daniel Jones an elite quarterback? No, he's not. But not everybody fits in one coach's offensive scheme. I think that Daniel Jones and Michael Pittman Jr. are going to have some really good chemistry. So I chose Colts over Miami for that reason. And then going to Steelers, yet somehow my games got out of order. I don't know how they got out of order. I chose the Steelers over the Jets as well. Simply for the fact I don't think it's going to be like a runaway or anything. But I do think that the Steelers have more of the veteran players than the Jets. And I don't want to put a bad mojo on anybody, but we all remember what happened to Aaron Rodgers last year against the Buffalo Bills, Game 1. So, he is that older quarterback. So, not to wish no ill will towards the man, but, he's an older quarterback, so we'll see. But I have chose the Steelers just for their veteran status over the Jets. They're still a young, developing team.
Exactly. Yeah, no, I completely agree with that status. But yeah, moving on to honestly, I really want to watch this game because I have a lot of faith in this team. It's the reason I picked them to win. But I've got the Panthers over the Jaguars. I knew you were gonna have that reaction to that one, but there was a comment the other day from Michael Penix Jr. He said that Bryce Young is one of the best quarterbacks he's ever seen. Now, there's glazing in the NFL, and people will hype up people that just aren't that good. But that's some serious accommodation and praise to give someone, especially considering Bryce Young hasn't had a great NFL debut so far. But he also hasn't had good talent, and I'm just going to say he hasn't really had the greatest coaching around him either. Kind of to mention Seth's point, sometimes you don't fit into a coach's scheme that well, and that's not entirely your fault, not entirely your coach's fault. Sometimes you just don't mesh well. But I really think the Panthers have been so bad consistently that they're finally getting some good talent around them. I think Bryce Young is going to have a lot of opportunity to really stand out. I mean, we've been seeing the connection in the preseason. The draft picks have been going well. I think Chuba Hubbard is going to have a standout season. I have so much confidence in him. I drafted him on my fantasy team, and I really do think the Panthers could knock him off. And that's not to discredit the Jaguars. I think the Jaguars can be good too, but I mean, Jaguars' most hype going into this game is we got Travis Hunter. It's not enough for me. So, and the next game, the Cardinals and the Saints. Good Lord, the poor Saints. I've got the Cardinals. The Saints are just, I don't know, they're turning into the laughing stock in the NFL for me. I've watched their preseason highlights, if you want to call them that, and there's just nothing. Alvin Kamara can only do so much. I mean, the dude's getting older and older. I mean, at this point, he's gonna have to have back surgery. It's tough. It's really tough if you're a New Orleans fan. I mean, you might as well just hope for a hurricane at this point. It might do better. You might even score a touchdown with a cow than whatever they have at quarterback right now. It's just not working. The Cardinals are going to run away with it. No questions asked.
Okay, Panthers, Jaguars. I went opposite as Toby. I chose Jacksonville. They're the more veteran team. I know they've been, on a slump here the last little bit. I do think they have a little bit more to bring to the table besides Travis Hunter. I mean, he is a dual threat. Has been playing offense and defense both. Kind of like taking that Taysom Hill role in New Orleans. But we can't forget about Brian Thomas Jr. He's their top guy. True. I think you'll see Travis Etienne on a different level this year. They also got Tank Bigsby. I chose the Jaguars just for the veteran status. I haven't seen anything yet that just makes me want to lean towards Carolina's offense. I would love for them to change my mind. But, I had to go with the Jaguars on that one. And then Saints, Cardinals. I chose the Cardinals over the Saints. I believe that both of these teams are fairly even from an offensive status. Wow. But the thing that the Saints have going for them over the Cardinals is the Saints have more veteran players. They got Chris Olave, they got Rashid. You got Alvin Kamara, like you said. You've got Taysom Hill. But the simple fact that I chose the Cardinals over the Saints is because I like Kyler Murray better than I do Spencer Rattler. Yeah. He's just, they are hurting at the quarterback position. They don't have that team leader leading them right now. So I chose Arizona.
That's pretty solid. I totally align with that. Moving on to a potentially another really exciting matchup that was honestly my fourth most anticipated game, can't even lie, is the Giants and the Commanders. Now, I do have the Commanders taking on the Giants here. I think the Commanders win. I think they just look so strong that I would be really shocked if they didn't come out firing on all pistons. But that's not to say that the Giants don't have a lot to offer. And I think Russell Wilson is fitting in that coaching scheme, that offense better than he was previously. And I think they just seem like they have a lot of hope in New York, and they've got more talent. They've got some good rookies from the draft. And I think they're going to put up a good fight. I do think the Commanders are still better than them, but I wouldn't doubt on Russell Wilson. He still is a Super Bowl quarterback, and you got to keep that in your mind. Do I think that the Giants are going to be really good this season? No, it's still the New York Giants. But I do think they have a potential to have a good season, but I do think the Commanders are definitely a lot better than them. Moving on to the Buccaneers and the Falcons. This one was another toss-up for me. I decided to go with the Falcons, and it's kind of long. I feel like the Buccaneers are kind of similar to the Chiefs. Sometimes they really start the season out pretty slow, and I think the Falcons are in a spot where last year was a dud, and they didn't want it to be a dud, and they understand now that, this is it. That we've got the talent, we've got the skill, we've got all this very young talent. I think the Falcons are one of the youngest teams in the NFL, and I think they could be really, really good this season. I think the Falcons are a serious threat this season for any team to keep an eye out on. So I do think they take the edge over the Buccaneers, and I think they do it pretty comfortably.
Well, on the note of the Giants versus Commanders, I chose the Commanders as well. Dan Quinn is the man. I have always had a lot of respect for Dan Quinn. He was an excellent coach when he was in Atlanta. He had his Super Bowl flub up, but, nobody's perfect. I'm a big Dan Quinn fan. Jaden Daniels is looking pretty solid. Terry McLaurin just got paid. I think he's going to have a refreshed attitude. And then, they got Zach Ertz out there too, Austin Eckler. I do think that losing Brian Robinson Jr. is going to hurt their offensive scheme just a little bit. But I do think in this situation that the Commanders are the obvious choice. The Giants are looking good, but they're in a rebuild stage right now. Yeah. They lost the best offensive thing they had when they lost Saquon Barkley. That was I have a lot of respect for Brian Dable. Great coach. He was also offensive coordinator for the Bills for a long time, but I think they still got some puzzle pieces for that team that they've got to fill. So I chose the Commanders as well. And then, Falcons and Buccaneers, it really wasn't much of a toss-up for me. Much respect for Tampa Bay. You got veterans like Mike Evans. Chris Godwin is out right now, and we're going to see week one, I do believe, what Emeka Mbuka has to bring to the table. Everybody's been talking him up. So, I am curious to see what he says. But I think if you look at it, the Falcons are the way better offense right now. I think they're hot. They got Michael Penix Jr. They got Bijan Robinson. Hey, can your quarterback cut the mustard like Bijan Mustard? He's looking good, really good. They got Drake London, Kyle Pitts. I mean, they are just looking stacked. So it was an easy choice to pick the Falcons for me.
No, I totally agree with all of that. The Falcons look really good. They have a lot of talent. Moving on to this kind of blood and guts rivalry. I've got the Bengals over the Browns. It wasn't really a toss up for me. I don't know. The Browns, you just always you just never know. And you don't know if they're going to go 0-17, if they're going to go 1-16, if they're going to surprise everyone and maybe get 4 wins. But their biggest mistake was still letting go of Baker Mayfield. I'm just being honest. But not to say Joe Flacco can't do some great things. And even though he's getting up there in years, Joe Flacco really can lead this team to a playoff spot again. He can. So don't get me wrong. And it's still a rivalry matchup. So you got to keep that in your mind. But I do think the Bengals still are better on paper. I think they have better talent, and Joe Burrow, I think, is a better quarterback than Joe Flacco. Maybe not 10 years ago, but 10 years ago, Joe Burrow was like high school, middle school, whatever. So got to keep that in mind. Moving on to the next one. This one might be different from Seth's too. I've got the Raiders going over the Patriots. Now, the Patriots, I really do think have a really good shot at being good this season. I think they made some bad choices. They've made some bad choices. They're very trigger heavy. They just have a very impulsive reaction sometimes to bad results. I guess when you're used to winning all the time, that can cause that. But I do think the Raiders are more talented right now. I think they've made a lot of great choices. And I really do think Geno Smith has solidified himself as a solid quarterback. He's in my upper echelon of quarterbacks in the NFL. And I think he's going to stay that way. And I think with even more talent around him, I've got a lot of faith in him. And he looked good when he was in Seattle. And I think Las Vegas needed somebody to come in with that veteran experience. And, just the receiving core in general, Devontae Adams, a lot of things up in the air there. But I think they can take the edge here. And I think the Raiders could actually have a good year this year. So.
Bengals, Browns. I chose Bengals. It was not a hard choice, like you said. Much respect for the Browns. They've just been kind of up and down team for the last several years, and every time you think that they're going somewhere, they just kind of take 3 steps back. I think, though, I don't think this is going to be a cakewalk game for the Bengals. I think they are going to struggle a little bit with the Browns' defense because the Browns do have a really good defense. I am curious to see how many times Joe Burrow does get sacked during this game. I am concerned about that. I think that is, I think I have a strong argument for that because, like you said, number one, this is a rivalry game, and the Browns they're killing on defense, but
always will be.
I chose the Bengals for that game, and then Raiders and Patriots. Where are you at? There it is. I chose the Patriots. Ladies and gentlemen, it's the Mike Vrabel and Josh McDaniels show. Come on, how can you not like these two guys? Mike Vrabel, Josh McDaniels, 2 offensive masters at the game. Not to take away from the Raiders. Raiders are looking good. I agree with everything you said about Geno Smith. I think he is that guy that's going to come in there and lead that team much better than Derek Carr ever could. Derek Carr was a talented quarterback, but he was just not that leader type. But, however, I think that Drake May is going to go off this year. Him and Stephon Diggs seem to have a pretty good chemistry. And then, I think that you're going to see Travion Henderson have a really big year this year. So I had to go with Pats on that one.
That's fair. I'm a big Travion Henderson believer. I think he's going to go good. I don't have any faith in Drake May. I don't think he's a good quarterback. I think he sucks. And if you're watching this, I do apologize. I really do. It's not personal critique. It is a personal critique. You're getting paid all this money to be the face of the New England Patriots after Tom Brady, and you just look bad. You were highly recruited out of college. You came into the New England Patriots, and you had so much hype around you. You had a dud year. And it's like, please do something. You're getting talent around you. You've got incredible coaches now. If you don't do good this year, you're gone. You're out of here. I wouldn't have got rid of Joe Milton. I would have kept Joe Milton. I would have said, Drake May, you're packing, buddy. Go to China. Go to Cancun. Wherever you want to go. Go play in the UFL. It doesn't matter. If this is it for you, this is your last chance. You've got no excuse this time. They've got an incredible talent around you. You've got some of the best coaches in the league. Mike Vrabel, everyone says they want to play for him. So this is it, buddy. The pressure's on, and pressure either makes diamonds or you get crushed. So I'm looking out for you, but change my mind, please. Just not against the Broncos. Speaking of, now I've got the 49ers and the Seahawks matchup, and this one, I was on the fence a little bit just because I think both teams are kind of mid-tier right now. I did pick the 49ers. I think the 49ers are slightly better on paper. The Seahawks, my biggest thing is just Jalen Milroe at quarterback. He was good in college, but he wasn't on that caliber of status, I thought he was going to do very good in the NFL. But sometimes when you're really good in college, you do bad in the NFL, and the vice versa effect. You know, you're not that good in college and you blossom in the NFL. He has had a pretty decent preseason so far, and I think he's getting developed well. I'm just not sure if I would really be confident taking them against the 49ers, against Brock Purdy, the man, the myth, the legend, the absolute beast that he is. I got 49ers. And then moving on, of course, this is no bias at all. I have no bias whatsoever towards the Denver Broncos organization. I've got the Broncos taking on the Titans and knocking them off pretty steadily. I am excited to watch the Titans this year. I'm excited to watch Cam Ward. I'm excited to see how they fit him into the offense. I'm excited to see Tony Pollard, but do I think they're better than the Broncos? Absolutely not. So Broncos all the way, Broncos Nation. I'm not part of that at all.
Okay, 49ers, Seahawks. It was an easy choice for me. I did not struggle at all. I chose 49ers over Seahawks. Kyle Shanahan has been on a roll for the last several years. And, I mean, he's been a contender every season, and I don't really expect it to go any other way. You know, like Toby said, you got Brock Purdy, solid, very solid. They still got George Kittle. You got Christian McCaffrey on the rise, and I know everybody is like, Christian McCaffrey. So, you know, for all you 49ers fans, I hope he stays in there and that this is, you know, his time to shine. I can't definitely not choose the 49ers over the Seahawks. The Seahawks still have a lot of talent, but they're on the cusp right now. They did get, you know, Cooper Kupp. You know, I think that was a really nice addition to that team, but that team needs a lot of help right now. Kenneth Walker is on the fence still, but we really don't know how he's doing with his feet. He's struggling just practicing with foot soreness. I mean, Zach Charbonnet could have a very, good year, but 49ers, obvious choice for me. Titans and Broncos. It was a toss-up for me, but I had to go with the Broncos because I think that the Broncos look just better offensively. You know, Bo Nix, I think the dude has went 360 degrees. I really think that, you know, he's going to be that John Elway quarterback that the Broncos have not had since I was a kid. Toby, he is too young to have seen those Broncos.
Watch the highlights.
But I remember that team, you know. But I'm really pleased with Bo Nix, and I really think that the Broncos are going to, win this one. Sorry, Mark, no hate. That's just the way I feel about it.
That's what happens when you don't show up to the fantasy football draft party. Anyways, moving on now to the Lions and the Packers, one of Seth's most anticipated games, and mine too. It was a solid 3. Close one, but not really. I've got the Lions. The Lions, I think, are still supreme. I think the Lions knock off the Packers here in this opener. There's a lot of talent still in Green Bay, but it's kind of along the lines for me is how much are they capable of, and how is their coach capable of getting them out of this, I won't say rut, because they're still making all these playoff appearances, but it's kind of like the Ravens for me. Like, they're doing good in the regular season and they look good, but I don't think they're on that status level of the Lions. The Lions are in my big 4 of the league for a reason, and I think they stay there. And so I do think they knock off the Packers, not comfortably, but I think they will handle them securely. And then the Texans and the Rams. I went with the magician from Ohio State. CJ Stroud is going to have a blast of a game this opener against the Rams. The Texans, they didn't have the greatest season last season, I think, of what they wanted to. And I think CJ Stroud with more development, and he's still got all of this talent around him. The running back position, it's a little sketchy for me. But I do think he's still deadly, and I think he's got a lot of really good wide receivers. If they don't get hurt, I think the Texans knock off the Rams.
Okay, the Lions, Packers, that was an obvious choice for me. Dan Campbell all the way, Lions. Love this Lions team. Like I was talking about last week's episode, there's just such a wealth of talent there, not to take away from the Packers, because like Toby said and I said earlier, they have made the playoffs the last 5 out of 6 seasons, which is incredible. Haven't made it over the hump, but I mean, they're still there. They're still continuing. But the biggest problem that the Packers have is their wide receiver core is just not that good. Jordan Love is solid. I like Jordan Love. Josh Jacobs. Tucker Kraft looks pretty good. I like Tucker Kraft. And I'm really curious to see how the Packers utilize Matthew Golden this season. But going up against Jared Goff, Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jameson Williams, Sam Laporta, that's easy for me. Lions all day. And then Texans, Rams, I went the opposite as Toby. I went Rams.
Wow.
I have much respect for C.J. Stroud. I love the Texans team, but I think that the Rams are going to show up to play. I think that they're looking better offensively right now. If their running back situation was a little bit different in Houston, I probably would have went with the Texans on this one. Sure. But with Kyron Williams in L.A. and them just getting Devontae Adams, I think that the Rams are going to pull the W out on this one.
Okay, that's fair. Like I said, I was on the edge with that pick. And then moving on to the final two matchups of the opening week. I'm definitely going to try to do everything in my power to watch this game. The Ravens and the Bills. I've got the Bills. I do think it's going to be a neck and neck game. I think it's going to be really close. If it's not really close, I'm going to be disappointed. But I do think the Bills are still better than the Ravens. But on that note, if the Ravens do win this game, then I'd be a little nervous about him in Bills Mafia. But I still think that the Bills are better, so I've got the Bills edging out the Ravens in this one. Very close. It could even be a field goal. It could be less than a field goal. Maybe it's a safety point. I don't know. And then for the final matchup, the nasty old Vikings and Bears. Believe it or not, as much as I hate on Chicago, I've got the Bears over the Vikings. And I know my good friend out there, Cam, has a lot of faith in the Bears quarterback. I don't know if I do, but I think he is... Can't believe I'm saying this. I think Caleb Williams looks better than J.J. McCarthy right now. Yikes. Honestly, that's more of a disrespect towards J.J. McCarthy than it's a compliment towards Caleb Williams. But I think the Bears can knock off the Vikings here, and I think J.J. McCarthy hasn't given me enough to make me think that he is really looking comfortable in that offense yet. And so I do think the Bears with DeAndre Swift and Caleb Williams. Yeah, I know it's Caleb Williams, most overhyped college player ever known to mankind. I think they knock off the Vikings.
Okay, Bills, Ravens. If nobody's told you before, I'll tell you today. Nobody circles the wagon like the Buffalo Bills. Bills all the way. Am I a little worried about this game? Yes, I am, because the Ravens is one of the toughest AFC opponents that we face every year. Sometimes we beat them, sometimes they beat us. They have an excellent ground game with Derrick Henry, but I think right now you're going to see, who is that strong team, whether it's going to be the AFC East or the AFC North, which one is going to come out. It could go either way, but I chose Bills on this one. I think that they're going to be hungry for, a first start. And, you got to think, it's probably a little embarrassing when your team is on Hard Knocks. That's got to be a little bit of an ego bust for, all these NFL players. So I think they're going to want to prove, that they don't deserve to be on this show anymore.
That's tough.
So going on to the last matchup, the Vikings and the Bears. Skull, baby, skull. I chose the Vikings. I am very curious to see what Ben Johnson does with the Bears offense on game one. But the way that they've played in the last several seasons, I have this much faith in the Bears to beat the Vikings. Vikings all the way. J.J. McCarthy, we really don't know what the guy can do. He never got a chance to play. He tore his meniscus. He was done. That was it. They've got a lot of talent on that team as well. I have confidence in Kevin O'Connell that he's going to pull through the W.
Well, that rounds out our very contrary picks of week one for our matchups. That was a lot of fun. I enjoyed that. Anything you want to remark on, since we are a little under time right now? We've got a few minutes to spare. So any comments about the week, any signings, any moves that really stood out to you this week?
No, not. I didn't really see any other than Terry McLaurin getting his big contract.
Yeah.
That was really the biggest thing that I saw. That just was like.
I will say on that note, that's the biggest question mark for me is Washington's run game and Houston's run game. Those are the two things that I'm keeping the closest eyes on right now as to really giving me a gauge on how that team is going to perform. Running backs are extremely important. And if you only have, one really good running back and a few decent running backs, that can totally change the scope of your season. If you have two elite running backs, then wow, you're living off great. But if you don't really have that clear starter, Cowboys, and if it is a clear starter and you just don't think they're that good, that's gonna be tough. And we're just in that type of NFL era where you've got to have a really good running back room. It's no longer just one good running back. You've got to have a good room of running backs. So definitely want to keep my eye on those teams for sure. Those are highlights for me. But listen, we want to hear from you all, specifically in the comments. What I'm going to do personally is I'm going to make a Google Doc form to put in the link down below. If you're watching on YouTube, it's going to be in the description. If you're if you're listening on Spotify, it's going to be in the Spotify description. I will post it on Instagram to our story as well. But we want to hear from you all specifically things that you want us to discuss on the podcast. We're going to have a little segment each time just like this where we have a few extra minutes by the time we're done talking, if we have those extra minutes. And we just want to know what you as a viewer and a listener want to hear us discuss, whether it's about your favorite player, whether it's about your favorite food, whatever it is, we want to hear from you. So if you want to fill out that form, let us know. Even just drop a comment on the YouTube. And please remember to like, subscribe, share the video. It helps us. It boosts us to the algorithm. And I think that's all I got. I think I just ran out of space.